Good morning, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode of On the FinSide here with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. I'm Brian Cat NFL on Twitter. Paul is fanatic_pick. So this is the big one here. I mean, we talked about for weeks that the Dolphins needed to come away with victories over the Patriots and the Raiders. And what a better weekend. There's no better weekend than this. You've got Christmas Eve, then you've got Christmas Day. Then on Saturday, you've got 3 games, one including the Dolphins, and then you've got all the games on Sunday. So I'm really glad that we're playing this game on Saturday. If the Dolphins win, then we can just kick our feet back, sit and watch and see what happens to the Dolphins there in week 16 as far as the other teams. Paul, how'd your Christmas go?
It was good, dude. Had a blast. I mean, spent some time with a small portion of family, and just really had a good time. The kid was happy. That's one of the most important things. And no, really good time, man. Lots of good food. I'm definitely not panning it down because I'm filling out this sweatshirt a little more today than I probably was on Wednesday. But no, great time. How about you, man? I know it was the kid's first Christmas.
Yeah. My son's son's first Christmas, and he's 7 months old today. Got a lot of presents. I had in-laws in town here. They're retired. They quarantine all the time, and definitely have for the last 2 weeks, if that's on anybody's mind there. My parents, I video conferenced in with. They dropped some presents off beforehand. So yeah, it was a bummer. I couldn't be around a lot of other people, but a little bit less stressful too, but I always like seeing my family on Christmas. So, Paul, let's take a look
Wait,
here.
hold up, Kat. We got asked if we had any Dolphins gifts, so I'll let you take that one.
Actually, yeah, I do. You see a new background / pillow for my my basement down here. We got 2 of them, and I think they really pop. So I'm loving that. Got a Dolphins ornament that's upstairs. I also too this little Dolphins truck was given to my son by my in-laws, and after speaking with my 7-month-old son, it's mine now. So
Dude, you shook down your kid for a Dolphins truck.
he knows the deal. See, he doesn't even know if he can't make up his mind yet if he's a Dolphins or a Chiefs fan. So
I'm just gonna tell our listeners, you know which one of us is the grumpy one if he's shaking down 7-year-olds for Dolphin swag. I'm just No,
7-year-old. No, you said
7-month-old.
7
Jesus.
I mean,
that doesn't make it better. That doesn't make it better.
Yeah, I got a couple of cool Dolphins gifts. Got the pillow, got the truck I stole from my son, and the ornament, and got one other thing, and I can't remember what it
Well,
was.
all I know is Shake Money got a big Dolphins bathrobe, and he better share that with us on Twitter with pajamas or
nice.
something under it. But I want to see this swag, Shake. I want to see the swag.
Yeah,
and actually,
Shake.
any of our listeners, show us the swag you got for Christmas on Twitter.
Yeah, just no nudity, please. That's all I ask for. Very cool, Shake.
Show decent family style swag on Twitter.
I also have an ugly Dolphins sweater that I've had for 2 years. I might wear that on the show here tonight, given that it's the holiday season. So we'll see if the Dolphins lose.
Actually,
it may not be.
Good. You made a great point there, Kat. It's just a reminder for folks. We're actually doing 2 shows in the premise of today. Our post game is going to be after the game tonight here on Saturday. So keep an eye out for that tonight.
Absolutely. And we're hoping here that my internet's is going to cooperate. It has all week. I just saw a little thing here, so hopefully we don't have problems with that. But Paul, let's get into the game here. The Dolphins currently 3-point favorites at Las Vegas. On the injury front, we just heard from Barry Jackson that Shaq Lawson's not going to play in this game. Solomon Kinley's going to be out. But the good news is that you're going to have. It looks like you're going to have Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, Jakeem Grant all play in this one. Eric Flowers is questionable. So yeah, I mean, and also too, as far as the injury front is concerned, the Dolphins are getting their skill positions back, and this will be actually the first game that Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed are playing in together. They were teammates at Washington. For people that don't know, Myles Gaskin is one of two college football running backs in the history of college football to have four 1,200-yard seasons. The other one was Ron Dane. And the year he left, Savon Ahmed actually came in and took over and ran for 1,000 yards himself. Now we're going to see that 1-2 punch at running back with Savon Ahmed and Myles Gaskin, and also too Matt Breida had a good game last week.
I was going to say you got to call it a 1-2-3 punch. And the thing I like about having all three of these guys healthy here going into Week 16 is I know, and I don't want to get ahead of draft talk because this is our pregame stuff. I don't want to get ahead of free agency. Oh, Jesus, shit. Oops. But I need a more durable back for this team. And I love Savon Ahmed. I love Myles Gaskin. I like Matt Breida. There's a role for each of them on this team, even if you add a bigger, more durable back to the mix. But the problem is when you get these small backs, you have to run between the tackles occasionally or you're a joke in your running game, and your running game just isn't effective. You have to be able to do those things, and those smaller backs like a Gaskin, like a DeAndre Washington, like a Matt Breida, like a Savon Ahmed, they don't hold up to that pounding between the tackles very well at all. If they don't have a big lane and they're getting hit regularly by the big meat monsters on the other team, they don't hold up. So we need this offseason to add something more durable, and then those guys are going to be even better for us when they're not having to be that pounded up the middle guy.
Yeah, that's why Najee Harris is so attractive to me. 6'2", 230 pounds. I might be willing to draft him higher than the second round as the weeks go along here. And the reason for that too is if you have a Najee Harris, like I've said on the show many times, you knock Myles Gaskin down to the second running back. He can be more available in the passing game. Then you've got Savon Ahmed that can come off the bench as the third running back. Your running back position is set for the next several years with players who are under 25 years old.
Yeah, no, it's I like Najee Harris. Another guy to take a look at too that may alleviate some of that and let you utilize Gaskin and Ahmed a little bit more is if you look a little bit later in the draft at a guy like Ramondre Stevenson out of Oklahoma. The guy is a pounder, and you might be able to get away with being a little more flexible with your backfield with a lesser named pounder that can find with a nose for the end zone than you would with a first or second round running back, and then go, okay, well, we're going to rotate you with Gaskin and Ahmed and get Breida out there too with Najee Harris. So you can do either of the things, and neither one precludes you from doing a lot of other fun things given the draft capital Miami has. So it's going to be really exciting as we go forward here.
Yeah, Aaron Jones is a free agent too. So, the Dolphins are coming off a game where the running backs ran for 228 yards against the Patriots. Now here in this one, when you look at the Raiders defense, over the last 5 games here, they're allowing 5.06 yards a carry to opposing running backs. So this is not a team that is great at stopping the run. In addition to that, they're going to be without two of their main components against the run. That's defensive end Cleveland Farrell and linebacker Nick Kwiatkowski, who is going to miss this game here because of COVID protocol. So this is a game where the Dolphins need to be able to have balance right out of the gate in the running game, because if they can have that, then that's going to free Tua up here to take advantage of a Raiders secondary that's also not very good.
Yeah, no, and one quick note on the running backs too, and I don't want to beat a dead horse on this one, but if Chandler Cox isn't active for this game, just cut him. Just cut him loose. Use the roster spot for something better, something that you might use on game day because it sure ain't him. But no, the Raiders' defense, while they're allowing 5.06 yards per carry, has really been a lot worse than that the past few weeks. It's that stat feels like a lie. It feels like they've been a lot worse. They are a very undisciplined football team with a lot of talent, and that doesn't do as well as they should because they're really poorly coached. If you go back and you watch that Raiders-Chargers game, you're probably watching the worst coached game in football this season by a long shot, and that probably includes college. I mean, it was that brutal to watch. You've got Anthony Lynn on one sideline. Yeah, I'm going to bash Anthony Lynn here because his coaching is so goddamn terrible, and he's got so much talent on that Chargers roster. With his ABC repeat offense and his even worse and more simplistic defense. And then you had the Oakland Raiders, or LA Raiders, depending on which hat Gruden had in which half, out there running just undisciplined, loose, free balling at football that wins you some games and loses you a hell of a lot more and gives up a hell of a lot on both sides of the ball.
Well, the Raiders, too, just 2 weeks ago fired Paul Gunther, their defensive coordinator. Not a surprise. He's an ex-Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator. And when we did our segment here with your boy Q, be sure to check that out. Your boy Q 254 on Twitter. You can find him out. He's with the Locked On Raiders podcast. I asked him what is really the best part here of the Raiders defense, and he said right now nothing. And I, based on what I've seen the last several weeks, I have to agree with them. I mean, over the last let's see, 6 games, the Raiders defense is allowing 30 points a game, over 5 yards a carry to opposing running backs, and a quarterback rating of over 101. And it makes sense. I mean, they're not good at stopping the run. They're not good at stopping the pass right now. And they've got a lot of injuries on that side of the ball too. So my point is, this is not a game to me that the Dolphins, it'd be a disappointment if the Dolphins go in there and score 17, 20, 23 points in this one. If the Dolphins are going to be taken seriously on offense here as we approach the playoffs, I think they need an offensive explosion in this type of game.
They do, and there's 2 things there. I know I said this in our post game from last week. I really, really want to see Chan Gailey keep the playbook open, even if they're getting Devontae Parker, Jakeem Grant, Mike Gesicki back. I want to see them use some of the concepts they did last week, and let's face it, I want to see them. I can't believe I'm saying this. I want to see a little more Durham Smythe. And there's a role for him even with Gesicki on the field. We've gone with a lot of 3 tight end looks. But watching Durham Smythe and Adam Shaheem start dropping truck sticks on people, guess what? That wears out a defense for everybody else when those big bastards get the ball and run people over.
Yeah, Smythe and Shaheen both had very good games the last couple of weeks. I mean, especially after the catch. And that's, Tua doesn't have the biggest arm, but one thing, or one of many things he's good at, is he sees the field quickly and gets the ball out on those kind of flat passes to the tight ends. It allows him to run up the field and get one-on-one with a defender. And we should see a little bit more of that with Smythe, with Adam Shaheen, with hopefully Mike Gesicki back and healthy as well. Paul, before we even get further into the game here, looking at the playoff picture, it's looking more and more likely, because the Dolphins are getting absolutely no help from anybody else in the AFC, that they're going to have to win out. And when I look at the schedule here, the best way for them to win out here, obviously win both games. But objectively, the easiest way to win out is obviously, number one, you've got to beat the Raiders here today. Then on Sunday, 2 things to probably look out for: the Bills beating the Patriots. That's right. Bills have already sewn up the division. Nothing more we can do about that. And the Colts beating the Steelers. Because if those 2 things happen, then the Bills have nothing to play for in week 17. And then from that point, if I'm Buffalo, the play there has to be that the Dolphins, or that we're going to rest our starters against the Dolphins. Because, hey, the Dolphins are going to be showing you everything in that game, and then we're going to be and then the Bills will be showing the Dolphins nothing, and then we play in the playoffs a week after that instead of the Ravens.
And just so you know, Cat meant they're going to rest their starters against, or yeah, whatever. But I'm with you, and I'll be honest, like, I've sat down and done the playoff simulator. I went through and tried to honestly assess every game and what I thought was going to happen. and then go through and start monkeying with the different scenarios for Miami, because that's a lot less complicated at this point. Like, okay, what do I think is going to happen in all these other games each week? And then if Miami wins today, and if they win or lose next week, if they win or lose today, if Miami loses today, their playoff chances go to hell. They can still go, but a whole lot more stuff needs to happen. If they win today, and the way I predicted this week and next week shake out, they're probably in. You win the two, and if Buffalo's resting their starters next week, you have an even better chance. I think Miami can beat Buffalo at full strength if they go in at full strength. But if Buffalo's resting their starters, I really think Miami's going to the playoffs. And you know what, though, too, is if Miami wins one of the next two or two of the next two, I'm proud as hell of this team. I'm proud as hell of their development. I'm proud as hell of the fact that this team is in the middle of a rebuild, and we're sitting here in week 16 talking about playoffs, and if you win out, you're probably going. I mean, even if they don't, even if they win out and they don't go, or they lose out at this point, which I don't see happening, I'm proud of what this team has done this year, given everything in the scenarios and what we've seen and the direction that this team is heading.
Certainly. I predicted the Dolphins to win 7 games. I thought that would be a decent building on type of year. That's what I predicted at the beginning of the year. I said they could get up to maybe 9 wins if the offensive line plays better than I thought, which they have. But now, we're talking, we win this game, we're at 10 and looking at 10-6 or 11-5. You bet that's a big win for the season. And it's a joke that with 7 teams going to the playoffs, that the 10-6 Dolphins don't get in. I remember in 2003, I was so mad because I thought they had a pretty good roster and they won 10 games and didn't make the playoffs. That sucked too. So yeah, that's just it. You're going to hear people say, "Oh, that's such a losing mentality." I mean, it's amazing some of these fans that have really the lowest expectations act like they have the highest at the end of the year. But yeah, it's the only unless they get absolutely wiped off the field in these last 2 games or there's a big injury. Yeah, I am going to consider the season a success. And one other thing to that, Paul, to segue into this is, say they go 10-6 and miss the playoffs, the Dolphins are going to have, I believe, the 18th pick in the draft, and that other Texans pick right now is at number 7. If the Bengals upset the Texans this weekend, the Dolphins are almost assured a top 5 pick in the NFL draft here.
That would be terrible, having to decide between Penei Sewell and Micah Parsons and really anybody we want. God, that would suck.
Yeah. So look, I think the Texans will beat the Bengals, but Bengals did just beat the Steelers, so you never know.
The Steelers are terrible.
They are. I wish. I mean, if the Dolphins in some way, we're not going to go through all the scenarios on it, but if they could have a miracle
go to Pittsburgh
and go to that, get that 6th seed.
That's round 2, baby.
Or just play the Steelers, and I mean, yeah, that's a game I could look at and say they could win that game against. I mean, look, they could beat Buffalo, they could beat Tennessee. I still have to give Buffalo and Tennessee the edges in those games, especially if we're playing there at their house. So,
well, to be fair, I mean, it's Pittsburgh's a team that's pretty well had a playoff spot locked up for a while. I think there's like random chances they can fall out, which are just garbage at this point, even if they completely lose out.
They've clinched, but they could fall in the standings.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
But I mean, they're a playoff team. They've clinched, and in the first half of a game, and it didn't get quieter in the second half, there was talk of benching one of the best quarterbacks in their history. Obviously not Terry Bradshaw, but I mean, Ben Roethlisberger has been one of the best quarterbacks in their history. You can make an argument for them, and it would basically be the Pittsburgh equivalent of Dolphins fans arguing to bench Marino for Chad Henne.
Who is talking about Roethlisberger being benched for Duck Hodges?
No, not for Duck, for Rudolph.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that.
They talked about it on the game coverage. It was starting to blow up all over Twitter. It was trending out on Twitter. It was trending. But I'm just saying, like, NFL Network talked about it. ESPN talked about it.
Okay.
I'm just saying, national media was talking about it.
Okay. All right. I'll
Trust
assume all
me.
that's true. Yeah, that'd be insane.
Like the
Okay,
snake on
all right, fine.
frickin'
Well,
Jungle Book.
no, but
Trust in me, cat.
all right. I've never seen the Jungle Book.
You're gonna. You got a
I don't think I've
7 month
ever.
old. You're gonna see it.
I don't think. Yeah, no, he's not watching cartoons. We already
You and your
decided
little
that.
Chiefs fan will be watching.
We'll see. No, but yeah. I mean, but bottom line, they haven't been playing well on offense. They can't run the ball. The receivers, they have to have dropped more passes than anybody in the league. Their offensive line, they've lost players. Defensively, they've lost 3 of their 4 linebackers outside of, or 2 of their 4 outside of T.J. Watt. So no doubt about it. So looking at the games here, as far as what benefits the Dolphins this weekend. Obviously, they've got to win. Otherwise, it's like you said, Paul, and I agree. It's pretty much a moot point. Number 2, the Bills beating the Patriots would be big, and then the Colts beating the Steelers would also be big. There's a chance the Colts could miss the playoffs, but very unlikely that the Dolphins end up over the Colts there for that. But it's possible. So those three games are big for draft position. The Bengals upsetting the Texans would be massive. Texans play the Titans in week 17, so they're probably losing that game too. The Falcons against the Chiefs, probably not going to happen, but that would be a major upset. And the Panthers over the Washington football team. That would be another one. And if any of those last 3 things happen, the Dolphins jump there in the standings. So, Paul, look at it. Let's get back to the game here. It miraculously, it looks like Derek Carr is going to play in this. And after, when he went to the locker room and he could barely walk here in this past game against the Chargers when they lost on Thursday Night Football, I definitely thought he was out for the year. Marcus Mariota comes in, passes for 228 yards, 88 rushing yards, 1 touchdown through the air, 1 on the ground, and they lose a 30-27 game here in overtime to them. My question to you is, did you want to see, who would you rather face? A Derek Carr who's limited with a groin injury, or a healthy Marcus Mariota here in week 16?
I think Carr, only because I want to see Agba go off, and I don't want to see him have to chase some sprinter around the backfield. I want to see that damn near a Heisman immobility standing there for Agba to feast on after he got snubbed from the Pro Bowl for a guy that, like, I couldn't find a single stat to qualify Clark over him. And I went to go for joking stats and going back to the frickin' combine, and still Agba beat him out. He's bigger, he's faster, he's got bigger hands, he's got longer arms, he's got more sacks, he's got more quarterback hits, he's got more pressures, he's got more forced fumbles. But, he plays for Miami, not the Chiefs.
Yeah. Agba was compared to Frank Clark. The Pro Bowl's a joke. We've talked about it for weeks on the show. I don't think it's a terrible thing Agba make it, because Agba after 2021 is going to be a free agent. Pro Bowls, even though the Pro Bowl is a joke, it does matter as far as things that a player can bring to the negotiation table. And saying, hey, if you say I'm a 2020 Pro Bowler, my first year with the Dolphins, that means something, especially for somebody who's 26 years old at the defensive end spot. But as far as him, he's going to go up here against Trent Brown, who they recently got back, one of the best offensive tackles in the game. I think that's going to be a really tough matchup for Agba or anybody else that Trent Brown goes against. But I'd rather face Carr too. Overall, for a 16-game schedule, I would probably rather have Derek Carr as my quarterback than Mariota. But in this game, I would rather face Carr. He's going to be more limited with the groin injury. And if you look at the Dolphins' schedule here, going up against, the Kyler Murrays and the Cam Newtons and the Josh Allens, quarterbacks that can make plays with their legs have hurt the Dolphins more than quarterbacks that can't.
They have, but we've seen Miami start to figure out how to contain that. I mean, Cam Newton, as an example, last week. Cam was a guy that tore Miami up early in the year, and while he hasn't been great through the air, has done a really good job overall in the ground game. And Miami is limited, I like I said before, over the past 3 weeks leading up to the Pats game, it was under 200 yards total of rushing, and that includes quarterbacks. So it doesn't scare me as much as it did. But if you're going to take an element away from an offense that's already undisciplined, I would prefer to not have a running quarterback in an undisciplined offense because they're always a threat to take off when things inevitably break down, as they tend to do with those type of offenses.
Yeah, they have done a better job. Yeah, Cam Newton had I think 30 something yards on the ground last week on 9 carries, so they really did a lot better job. Um, but they also did leave the middle of the field open sometimes because of that to compensate for it, which it is fine. That's but that's why having Carr back there doesn't create as many problems. Derek Carr is somebody he has a quarterback rating of 102 on the year, but that's largely because he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He only has 7 picks on the year, and he does that all the time. He's, as PFF says, he's pathologically conservative. He's he's unwilling to go to that third read and chuck the ball downfield a lot. And when he does, the option for that is Henry Ruggs. And Henry Ruggs is really 50-50 in this game. He's coming back from COVID. I don't know if he had it or if it was a precaution, but that's an important one here because we've seen that the one area that the Dolphins defense is suspect to is that 60 or 70-yard pass, the one that we saw over the top to Christian Kirk against the Cardinals. We saw Tyler Boyd break a tackle and take it 72 yards because they don't have a safety over the top. I like the design of that defense. But if you put Henry Ruggs on the field now against that cover zero, now you may have to play a safety deeper a lot more than you originally wanted to.
Yeah, and I think if Ruggs plays, we'll probably see a little less of the cover zero. If Ruggs does not play, I think we'll see a little more of the cover zero because, like we saw a couple weeks ago with Bobby McCain, when he's that deep guy, and the fun thing is, and welcome back to that, when he's that deep guy, they limit a lot of things that surprise folks. I mean, I talked about the fact that when Tyreek Hill got his 2 big plays, it was when Bobby McCain was on the sideline, once in concussion protocol and once with an injury. So if Bobby's that deep guy, I like our chances a hell of a lot more. He may not be the fastest, but he knows how to play his angles, and just he has been a blessing this year as that deep guy, as well as when he's up near the line. Now, the cool thing is with covers, the way that they've been setting up the cover zero look, you'll see plays where Bobby starts out up by the line, but he breaks with such perfect timing that he actually ends up playing that deep center fielder. So those type of plays could mask things where it looks like Ruggs is open over the top, it freezes Carr, and the D line and who's actually blitzing, is going to feast. So there's a lot of fun little things that I like that Josh Boyer has done with this defense, and I really want to see it against a team like the Raiders.
The Dolphins have allowed the fewest amount of points on defense. They're the best on third down. Statistically, they're up there in a lot of areas. It would be a shame if the Dolphins' playoff hopes basically ended going up against an injured Derek Carr. That would be a shame. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think Josh Boyer is going to be able to figure that out here. The 2 biggest weapons that they have, obviously, and it'll be fascinating to see if the Dolphins can hold them to under 1,000 yards on the season heading into week 17. That's tight end Darren Waller, who is the best receiving tight end by far, other than Travis Kelce in this game. He needs 33 yards to get to 1,000 for his second straight year. Josh Jacobs made the Pro Bowl. That's him making it over James Robinson is a joke, but we don't have to go down that pathway again. But he is certainly their bell cow. Now on the season, Josh Jacobs is averaging under 4 yards a carry. So it really is kind of death by 1,000 cuts with this offense, with Josh Jacobs and with Derek Carr. And then they try to go over the top to Henry Ruggs, and then obviously Darren Waller is their number one option in the passing game. So yeah,
Let's go Rowe.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because we talked about Eric Rowe being the tight end eraser. Obviously, that didn't happen to Travis Kelce, but I think that's a different thing. Nobody stops Kelce. Kelce leads the league in receiving from the tight end spot. Would be the first time in NFL history that happened. So anyway, I'm rambling on here, but as far as the tight end's concerned, this will be a fascinating matchup to watch if Eric Rowe can neutralize, not stop, but neutralize Darren Waller here.
It will, and I think he can. I mean, and I go back to the Kansas City tape, and while Rowe did not erase Travis Kelce, Rowe wasn't asked to cover him as much as I expected with the way that they schemed it. It's almost like the Dolphins outsmarted themselves a bit with that one, where I think I saw Rowe covering him on three of the catches he had, and he had a hell of a lot more than three. I don't have the exact number in front of me. And you got to have Rowe predominantly being your tight end lockup guy when you play these guys. It's if we've got Rowe as the big cover guy on Waller, I think we can possibly keep Waller to either just below or just above that 1,000 yards on the season. But if you're only periodically doing it, I think he gets it whether it's against Rowe or not. But that's me.
Well, yeah, and yeah, Kelce had 8 catches on that game in the Chiefs game. I didn't expect Rowe to be on Kelce every single play because it's hard to, because Kelce moves around all over the field. He plays in every receiving position that you can imagine, and it's hard to follow somebody like that. And if you do, that can get used against you in man to man. So it doesn't surprise me. And the catches I saw Kelce made, I thought there's not a tight end, including Waller, who can make these types of catches that he made. At least 2 of them that he had. So anyway, that's a big part of the offense. But when I look at this Raiders offense in general, don't be fooled here. I mean, this is not a bad offense. I mean, 6 of the last 7 games, they have scored 27 or more points in a game. Now, then again, they haven't faced a defense recently that's quite as good as the Dolphins.
They haven't, and I'm really excited for our number 1 in the NFL scoring defense to go up against these guys, because it's like you said, they have not faced an offense or defense like the Dolphins one in a good while, and really, with them being number 1, there's none that they could have faced like the Dolphins' number 1 scoring defense. Kat, I want to kick it over to the offensive side of the ball, though, and it's you look at the mess that they have on defense. I really think our O-line can destroy them and win the trench battle again like they did last week. And then I want to see if Jakeem Grant is back. I want to see him utilized the proper way. I don't think we've been doing it thus far. And having him and Bowden and Parker and Gesicki out on the field, if you've got Bowden and Grant terrorizing an offense with the threat of the jet sweep, running the quick slants and being yard after catch guys, that's going to open things up for everybody. Wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. And this is going to be the Lynn Bowden revenge game here, because the Dolphins traded just a really odd situation. The Raiders drafted Lynn Bowden in the 3rd round, and then the Dolphins traded for him at the end of the summer, which I loved it. And I think right now that's looking like a steal. But yeah, what I've said for weeks is, people have given Chan Gailey a lot of crap here this year. I think he has called phenomenal games over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And my biggest fear in this is, you know what? We feel like we don't have to do as many no huddles, as many end arounds, et cetera, because we feel pretty good that we can beat the Raiders defense straight up. I hope Chan Gailey does not think that way. Keep doing what has been working, because even though the Dolphins only scored 22 points last week, they had 4 drives of 72 yards or more. They were moving the ball without their top 5 receivers from this past August. So, yeah, I think it's very important here, and I think they can spread the field. Even if Parker and Gesicki and Grant can't make it through the entire game because they are very, very iffy, they missed last week, I do think the Dolphins have enough weapons, but they have to stay creative on the offensive side of the ball.
They do, and I really, like you said, and I think I said earlier, I want to see Chan keep some of those concepts that we've been seeing with the backups once the starters are on the field. And that's not to say you can't rotate those guys in. I think they have earned a few snaps. Guys like Mac Hollins have definitely earned a few snaps. Gesicki, while he is our starter, and I know he's hurt a little bit, Smythe and Shaheen have earned some snaps. Malcolm Perry to me has earned a few snaps too. So I'm fine with rotating those guys in, terrorizing the defense, making them have to account for not just who's lined up where, but who the hell's out there. And then utilizing all those different concepts that he used when he went, oh crap, all of our starters are out. Let me turn the playbook to page 2 and see what I've got here. It's you can't just be simplistic. That is the death of guys like Anthony Lynn, who I bash every week here. And while I'm at it too, guys, make sure you're clicking like, make sure you guys are subscribing. Thank you for all the folks that have been doing so, and for those in the chat that are promoting it for us.
Absolutely, very much appreciated. So, yeah, I mean, I think it could be the best thing that could happen that Gesicki, Parker, Grant are all available to play, and even if it's as largely decoys, that could benefit the Dolphins greatly because you don't really know what to prepare for. If you're preparing all week on defense, especially the Raiders played Thursday, so they've got 10 days to prepare with this new defensive coordinator Rod Marinelli. They could sniff some of that stuff out, but now you've got a couple of different options if you're not just preparing for these kind of jet sweep type of plays here. So yeah, I don't know. Also too, what's fascinating is I don't know what happens to John Gruden's teams late in the season. I did a little research on this. In the last 5 years that he was head coach, 2 with the Bucks and 3 with the Raiders. In 4 of the last 5 years, in 2007 they started 8-4, finished 1-4. They started 2008, started 9-3, lost their last 4 games, missed the playoffs. 2018 was a dumpster fire. They went 4-12. We'll leave that out. 2019, last year, they started 6-4, ended the season 7-9 by going 1-5 in their last 6 games. Now here they start 6-3, and Paul, you sniffed out then that they were kind of a fraud, and I agreed with you. Probably not as much as not as
I
strong
got tore
as
up
you
for
thought.
it.
6-3 they started this year, and now they're 1-4 in their last 5 games with their only victory on a Hail Mary against the Jets, or not a Hail Mary, but the worst coverage call of the year.
Yeah, I was going to say the coverage call that actually got a Jets coach fired, which I didn't think could happen.
So my point is, I mean, I don't think that it'll be surprising for me if the Raiders pull it all together here, reverse the trend against a Dolphins team that is just playing much, much better.
Yeah, and it sounds an awful lot to me that when it comes to the playoffs, you're accusing Mr. John Gruden of premature evacuation when it comes to the playoffs. So, but I Gruden, and I know he won a Super Bowl with the Bucks after this happened, but it feels like once he went to the Bucks, and it may have been around the time he won that Super Bowl with them and a ridiculous roster, he started buying into the mythos of John Gruden and turned into a caricature of a coach. And then he took a huge swath of time off from football, and then he came back and felt even cockier about the whole situation. And it feels like he's more interested in the mythos and glitz and glam, and it's great because that will take a team and it'll motivate them out of the gate. It really will. It'll set them up for like, yeah, John Gruden, he's got us all hyped up. But at the end of the day, there's got to be some substance behind it to finish a season strong. And this is a sloppy coach team. And there's not the substance there to maintain that well-coached discipline that you need to get through games 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 of a season. And that's where Gruden falls apart. And that's why when folks were talking about Gruden for Miami, just like different reasons for Harbaugh when they talked about him for Miami, Jim, not John, I went, hell no. Like, it's the glitz and glam and showmanship that at the end of the day gets exposed as you start talking about playoffs and getting in the real hunt of things.
I think offensively they're very disciplined, as evidenced by how few times they turn the ball over. And They're averaging 27 points a game this year. He needs a strong defensive coordinator because defensively they've poured a lot of resources into this team. I mean, they give a lot of money to Nick Kwiatkowski, who's actually been good and their best player this year, who's not going to play in this game. But Corey Littleton, they gave a lot of money to a linebacker. He's been terrible. Then they draft Gary and Conley in the first round, Damon Arnett in the first round, Jonathan Abram in the first round, Cleveland Farrell 4th overall, Max Crosby in the 4th round. They've put a lot of resources into this defense. And you listen to my interview with your boy Q from the Locked On Raiders podcast. It's terrible. It's one of the worst units in the league. That's a major problem. It's what the Dolphins have to exploit in this type of game.
It is. And I think Miami can, and I think everything Miami does well plays well against the Raiders here. And God, I'm excited. I'm just excited, man. We get to do this in the morning. We've got the game tonight. We've got our post game after the game tonight. I'm excited for this, dude. This is a game I've had circled as a win since before the Raiders became, John Gruden's Raiders midway through the season.
Yep, and this would be if the Dolphins won this here.
We get to beat them in the Roomba. We get to beat them in the Roomba. I forgot about that part.
They would have double-digit wins for just the second time in the last 12 years. So we already classify this as a positive season. This would start to put the Dolphins over the top as far as, imagine going 10-6, 11-5, and you still at least have a top 10 pick in the draft along with your original pick. So yeah, before we get to our bold predictions and our score predictions, Paul, anything else jump out from the chat? Because I can't multitask. So. Oh,
no worries, dude. It's so Tommy, I know you joined late, so we'll just give you the quick update. It looks like Gesicki and Parker are going to play tonight. One of the things folks asked about, and Kat, I'm just going to hit a couple of these quick because they're ones I already know the answers to. Preston Williams coming back. Brian Flores gave an update in one of his media availabilities this week where he's hoping to get Godchow and hoping to get Preston Williams back. But that's as far as the answer goes. We can hope and wish on the Christmas star, which is also frickin' Saturn, and see what happens there. One of the questions we got is our thoughts on the linebackers and their sack counts, and if we trust the Dolphins front four on D now as opposed to the beginning of the season.
I trust them a lot more. I love the front four. Now that changes a little bit with Shaq Lawson out this game. He does a lot of the dirty work there at left tackle. You saw a perfect example for this question here is you saw a sack that Jerome Baker had last week. That was all Shaq Lawson. Shaq Lawson ran around Patriots left tackle Frank Herron and forced Cam Newton up in the pocket. Jerome Baker gets the sack. And it's not a surprise here that in this type of defense that the linebackers are getting a lot of sacks because it's not only do they blitz a lot, but it's unpredictable how often they blitz and the timing that they have when they do that. So not a big surprise. Kyle Van Noy and Jerome Baker have over 5 sacks on the year each. I think it's fantastic on that. I don't think you're going to see a game where they just trust their defensive line to get to the quarterback. That's not the scheme. And I'm glad it's not the scheme because it's a lot more unpredictable this way.
It is. And you've heard me say, God, we need to blitz. Like, even against Kansas City, when everyone's like, no, don't blitz, guys. Whatever you do, you can't blitz Patrick Mahomes. It just ends in a bloodbath. That is their defense. That is what's gotten them to the point of being that number one scoring defense, that in number one in a number of categories. Jerome Baker has stepped up. I love the way he blitzes. You want to talk about the front four. I like to incorporate Andrew Van Ginkel there into the front four. I mean, it's like a front 8 with the rotation they've got. But they've done a really good job of not just getting to the quarterback, whether it shows up on sack totals or not, but stopping the run over the past few weeks. Raekwon Davis's development. The one guy I don't trust if you want to talk front seven and the linebackers is I don't trust the Landon Roberts. I've been making this comparison a lot lately. I know I've done it on the show. He strikes me, and Kat and some of our listeners for a while will know exactly what I'm talking about here without me diving in fully, but he strikes me as the Terrell Buckley of this defense at linebacker. where he takes his guess, he takes his chance, and he does it at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And when it pays off, it is a beautiful highlight reel show up on Sports Center moment because he blows it up in the backfield as he shoots the gap that wasn't even there when he started going. And, tackles a running back on fourth down as he's sweeping to the left. But 3 out of 4 times you'll see him do the same thing, and he'll shoot at a hole, and the running back goes right by where he should have been as a linebacker through a wide open hole because he went to the inside of the guard or the tackle, and the hole in the play design was to go to the outside. So he will eliminate himself from a lot of plays too, and he'll do it at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Don't get me wrong, but that's the one I trust the least, even though he's probably going to have a lot of the big plays.
Yeah, he's hit and miss. There's no doubt about that. So on 4th and 1, I don't think there's a better linebacker in the league this year. But other than that, yeah, he can shoot through and makes a lot of plays, but he gives up a lot too. He's not as disciplined as Baker and Van Noy are at linebacker. So Paul, what is your one bold prediction here for this game?
I think Shaq Lawson's out. Van Ginkel gets at least 2 sacks and a fumble recovery in this game. I won't say what he does with it, but I think Van Ginkel. Yeah, I'm going to go with Gink. Give it to the Gink.
God, I'm going to say, to come full circle, Lynn Bowden gets his first NFL touchdown, and he does it against the Raiders, the team that drafted him and then didn't want anything to do with him a couple of months later. In seasons like this, when things are going well, those types of things happen. So, and I predict that it will too in this game. Hope the Dolphins continue to stay creative. As far as my score prediction on this game, I've said for a long time that I for weeks and weeks that the Raiders and the Patriots game, I don't have them winning both games. I'm changing that officially now here. So I'm on board with 10-6. And I think the Dolphins are going to need to put up some points to do it too. I'm going to say that they get over the 30 mark in this game against a Raiders defense that is just playing terribly. And the Dolphins need we're here in the playoffs and we're here to stay from the offense. They need that type of game. I'm going to say 31-20 Dolphins.
I'm close to you on this one. I'm going 35-17 Miami in this one. This defense is just so bad on the Raiders side, so good on the Dolphins side, that I don't see the Raiders being able to keep up. I see the Raiders having to start to force it as the game goes on, at which point the defense can pin their ears back, and it just grows from there. And Carr's groin injury as well. I mean, didn't look like there's any way he should be playing. A lot of respect to Carr for playing this week, given the way he pulled up last week. But again, and Shake, I see you down there saying that you think Lynn Bowden's getting his first touch, or will throw his first touchdown. I'm holding you to that tonight when you come back for the
that would even stream. That would even be better. That would even be better if he threw for it instead of rushed or received it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But,
so we both have the Dolphins winning. 35-17 for you, 31-20 for me. Yeah. So we'll see you back here in, let's see, about 14 or 15 hours here for the post game. Would love to have you all back and bring a few more people too. That's going to do it for our breakdown of the Dolphins Raiders matchup here tonight at 7:15 Central, 8:15 Eastern time. I'm Brian Cat NFL on Twitter. Paul is fanatic_pick. That's fanatic with a PH. And you can follow Paul and I on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and on Spotify. And if it's not on the right side and it's not on the left side, it is on the fin side.